Happy New Year to you. I realised I've done 2 of these solo streams and I never said Happy Christmas and I never said Happy New Year, which makes me come across like a miserable bugger. I am a miserable bugger, but I like to keep up the facade that I'm not. So I'll start by saying Happy New Year to you because I forgot the last time. Yeah, I thought I'd get one of these in before the dart starts, which I think is 7:30. But of course, I don't think they'll be doing their walks till about 8 o'clock. So hopefully I don't miss too much of the darts and you don't miss too much of the darts by sticking with me on this, as is in the chat. Now, the reason why I'm without Az tonight is because he's got a fever. He's covered in sweat. He's probably sitting with a blanket now in front of this. He is watching. Hello, Az. Thanks for joining us. So he is a bit poorly, which is fair enough. We have had Christmas apart, of course, and we haven't managed to do any black boxes over Christmas because Az has been away and now he's struck down. But I'll keep going. I'll do another one. I've enjoyed doing these solo streams, to be honest. No one can interrupt me and I can just be as biased and as propaganda-like as I like. And I'm going to be biased. And this is going to be full of propaganda tonight. So if you don't want your mind changed about your transfers and you don't want to listen to my nonsense bias, then perhaps tune out. But hopefully there's something here for everybody. I am going to be talking about Diaz. Spoiler alert, as you might have gathered by the thumbnail and the title. He has come into my thoughts. But of course, we've had a dramatic twist today with news of potential weather warnings. Well, not potential weather warnings, there are weather warnings, and potentially that could threaten the Merseyside derby on Sunday. I think Benny Blanco broke the news, bizarrely, not the source I expected. And Andy Martin and part of the community is latched onto it because he likes to kind of cast more doubt and concern amongst the community about things like this, particularly if you don't own Salah, of course. At the moment, the facts we know is there's a weather warning from 4 o'clock. I've got it here, a tweet in front of me, 4 o'clock tomorrow through to, 6 o'clock tomorrow through to noon on Sunday. So that's an amber weather warning. And we know that Liverpool or Merseyside are parts of the country that will be affected by that warning. All we can do is make our transfers as late as possible, which will be tomorrow, obviously for the deadline, which I presume is the 11 o'clock deadline, so it's 12:30 kickoff there is. So I'm not going to make any transfers till last minute, which should be fun. Not last minute. I don't recommend that because the server could go down. So I'm probably not going to make it till around 10:30, around then. Certainly not going to leave it till like 5 to 11 because that's too dicey. But yeah, I guess more information we hope to get overnight really on the state. I mean, there'll be people watching this, there'll be people in the community who live in that area who can perhaps give us some more of an update on how it's looking. Right now, I'm 80-20, maybe even 90-10 that it's going to go ahead, and I'm not going to let my transfer plans be affected right now. But I'll obviously wake in the morning and get an update and see what the feeling is tomorrow. But that's crucial because I am dicing with Diaz. I am strongly considering getting Diaz back into my team. He was a player who I wildcarded for, and that went absolutely disastrously. That wildcard nearly ruined my season because obviously I wildcarded Haaland in and Saka and Salah out, I think. Well, certainly my team was skewed towards Haaland, and then he went on that terrible run. And Saka and Salah went crazy. I corrected it. And I got a green arrow in the last game week to take me up to 129k. So I'm in a decent position, far better than I thought I would be. But now I'm thinking of going back to Diaz, and that could be a mistake for a number of reasons. One, will he play? Will he start? I'll present a case to say that I think he will. And two, will Liverpool even play because of the weather? At the moment, I'm going to go with yes anyway. So we're going to talk about the key issues, which I guess are if you've got Bowen, where do you go? And if you've got Kuna, where do you go? I'm going to take a drink early because I never take a drink and then I get really dry and run out of breath. It's Traitors tonight as well. We are watching that in the house. We're one episode behind, so I'm going to have to go in and watch last night's episode before I watch tonight's episode. I do watch that as well as the darts, so I'm going to have the darts on a second screen. But let's get into FPL. Let's talk about Bowen. Shall we have a look at my game week quickly? I don't want to be all gloaty, but I'll have a quick look at my game week just to go through some of the issues, things that came off. Flecken, disastrous. I need to get rid of him. I don't know when I'm going to be able to. I'm not going to get rid of him ahead of Southampton away because, he's fit again. They could keep a clean sheet there. I think I've gone 1-0 Brentford in my predictions, which we'll look at the end. So I'm keeping him. Trent came in finally. So my hits I took previously in game week, ahead of game week 19, or ahead of game week 18 rather, was Bowen in, Trent in, Jesus in. And Bowen came in with 8 points, but Jesus and Trent looked like mistakes. But a week later, they come in. Trent with 15, Jesus with 12. So, again, as has happened this season for me, when I've been aggressive and taken hits, it hasn't taken long for those hits to pay off. And that's been behind me having a revival this season. So, Trent with 15, Gabriel 2, Timber 1, Arsenal defence. We'll talk about them in a minute. I'm very tempted to trim down to 1. Munoz was my free transfer in, only the 2 points, but I think he's good over the long run. They've got outstanding fixtures. We'll look at the ticker later, but Palace are top of that. Munoz, I think, his numbers are crazy good. We might bring up the defensive numbers and we'll see that. Rodgers came in again. He's not going anywhere for me. I'm keeping Rodgers through the suspension. 11 points. Salah, of course, crazy numbers. Again, 32 points. With the captaincy, Gordon, who was a transfer that I made a few weeks back. So I got in early on him and he's done well for me with the 6 points. Palmer with 2, Jesus with the 12 at Brentford, and then Isak, which is now the norm for him, returning again with a goal at United. So 91, another green arrow, up another 40k, I think. So pretty good. Very happy with that, obviously. But I do go into this game with major issues because Rodgers picked up his 5th yellow card. Timber picked up his 5th yellow card. Bowen got injured. So I've got 3 red flags. And while I've got a good bench, that has stretched my resources. And clearly, if the Liverpool United game is postponed, I will be down to 10 men, maybe even 9 if I choose to go Bowen to Diaz. So more on that in a minute. Let's look at who you could look at. For Bowen replacements, this says Saka replacements when it shouldn't do. Let me redo that. It is the right data. It's just I didn't update that. So let me update that on the fly. Apologies for that. This is all very lo-fi, but you're probably used to that if you've seen the other 2 solo streams I did. That means that the next 6 will be incorrect as well, but never mind. Right, so this is season data. Now, straight off the bat, I would say if you don't have Anthony Gordon would be my preferred option to replace Bowen. I just think if we look at the ticker, Newcastle was second on that. This is a 12-game week ticker. Yes, they go to Spurs, but that's not a tough game. That's not a tough game. I mean, these are using my ratings, and there's a shade of red on that Tottenham fixture, but let's face it, with the defensive injuries that Ange's got, I would expect Newcastle to win this game and score 2 to 3 goals, maybe more. I think I've gone 3-1, my prediction, as. I was watching the Clash of the Correspondents, and Planet FPL James was predicting at least 3 goals for Newcastle as well. And in the clash between the correspondents there, I think that was the agreed outcome, that it would be at least 3-2 to Spurs, to Newcastle. So I'm expecting goals there. And then they go on a great run. Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, okay, City away, Forest at home, Liverpool away. That's a tough run from 25. But that 4th and 21, for me, Gordon would be the route I would go. If I didn't already have him and I had Bowen or I had a midfielder place around that budget, I would be going to Anthony Gordon. Now, the safest pick is possibly Mbeumo. And of course, Mbeumo came in with the goal in game week 19 to lift his profile further. But Brentford's fixtures, unlike Newcastle's, aren't quite as kind. Southampton this week, short term, obviously Mbeumo's great. I've no qualms of going in Mbeumo there because it's the reason I went Bowen, of course. Last game week was he was playing Southampton away. That is a good fixture. I would say, and I think I alluded to the fact that I do think Southampton and Ipswich, less so Leicester, are tighter now, making fewer mistakes, taking fewer risks. So I don't think they're the whipping boys that they perhaps were a few weeks back. I think I said this when I bought Bowen. I don't expect West Ham to go there win 3 or 4-0, but they won there 1-0. And I think Brentford will probably do something similar. I think they win the game 1 or 2 goals. So Mbeumo could well be in profit. Then he plays City and Liverpool. And I just think that, yes, there could still be goals and points there for Mbeumo, but that is a tough 2 home fixtures. And we've seen Brentford lose their last 2 home games to Forest and Arsenal. Also, I would say Mbeumo if we look at midfielders last 6, he's down in 41st, 0.39 XGI non-penalty per 90. Even over the season, I think he's been low for these numbers. Yeah, 44th, 0.40. So he has been overperforming his XG by quite a margin. I think the delta is 6 goals. So in other words, he scored 6 more goals than expected, according to the data. Now, he's a quality player. He is a player who can exceed his XG. But logic suggests that he's not going to be able to maintain the levels that he has kept to this point, even with penalties and with the fixtures as tough as they are for Brentford. And I also see Brentford going into their shell a bit in terms of an attacking force. I'm seeing Frank being a bit more pragmatic with his approach. Certainly, again, Arsenal, when they went 1 up, they were kind of quite defensive, I thought. I don't think they went for the jugular, so to speak. They've got injuries as well, of course. I saw it against Forest as well. They're a bit more of a pragmatic force than they were early in the season when they were winning games 3-2, 4-3 at the G-Tech. I think they're starting to feel like results is what matters now, rather than being the swashbuckling attacking team they were previously. Certainly, they're dropping down the table, so results will start to matter more for them. So I don't think they're a fluid attacking unit. And if we look at the attacking data last 6, they're down in 15th, 0.99 XG non-penalty per 90. So the reason why I'm not for Mbeumo is because I think Brentford as an attacking force are fading. If you look at the chance per 90, 8.17 shots per 90 over the last 6 matches is their average. The only team lower than that is Leicester over that spell. So Brentford are not a side that are having too many shots and creating too many chances, and Mbeumo is outperforming his XG considerably. Right, so those two things make me think that there's every chance Mbeumo drops off. The other thing that turns me against Mbeumo is he's a popular pick. He's a big analytics pick. He's a big content creator pick in terms of those wanting to play safe and go over a safer option. Mbeumo's the route they're taking. I don't want to play like that. I want to gain rank and I want to look for differentials. So I would therefore gravitate towards Anthony Gordon. Again, I'm biased. I've got him already. If I wasn't going Gordon and if I wasn't looking at Mbeumo, where would I go? Long term, Ismaila Sarr, because the other option that Sarr gives you is the money that you save. He's 5.9. So maybe you don't want to double up on Newcastle. I don't know why you wouldn't at the moment, because they're a big attacking force and their confidence is high. I would certainly go Gordon first. But if you don't want to go there, Sarr is the other excellent long-term option, and their fixtures are stronger than Newcastle for far longer. Newcastle got that run 25 to 27 where they play City, Forest, Liverpool. Okay, City away might not be a difficult game, but it could be by then. Forest at home certainly will be. Liverpool away certainly will be. So that little blip there could interrupt Gordon and Isak, and if you double up on Newcastle, maybe you're going to be exposed a bit there. Palace, though, I mean, Chelsea at home, I don't think is as difficult as it perhaps was a couple of weeks ago, because they just lost to Ipswich. They're not in great shape. Yes, they rotated at Ipswich, and they'll play a stronger team at Palace. They have to. But I don't think confidence is with Maresca's side, and I think Palace will fancy it. I think they score at least 1 in this game. Then after that, the Palace run is superb. And I just think that while I've got Munoz, I do want to get another piece of this Palace pie, I think. I don't mind having another week to have a look at it, but I do prefer Sarr. So he would be my preferred option after Gordon. Why would I not go Eze? Again, it comes down to, this is a real analytics versus Grass FC decision. The models still like Eze. I get it. Eze's on a lot of set pieces. He might even have a bit of penalties. I don't think he will. I think Mateta will get them. But I think penalties are factored into what the models both rate my team and review say. That's why Eze is high there. I've done a lot of research into Palace because I like them and I like their fixtures, and I wanted to know where I should go with my investment. Listened to a lot of Palace content over the last couple of weeks to see whether Sarr is the real deal. And the content I listened to, a lot of fan stuff, and these are people obviously watch Palace week in, week out, and they've watched them all season. They're saying that Eze has been poor and he isn't necessarily anywhere near the kind of form they've seen last season. They don't think he's fully fit. They think without the goal in game week 19, in that game, he would have scored a 3 out of 10. So it wasn't a good performance from Eze. Now, I didn't see the game. I didn't see it live. But everything I've heard, and I've heard from several sources, is that Eze is not at his peak by any means, whereas Sarr is central to everything Palace are doing. He's the one making runs. He's the one with pace and power and stretching things. He's picking up the bits off Mateta, who is also playing well but doing the dirty work. Eze is dropping deep at times, and they're reverting to a front two with Mateta and Sarr. That just leans me towards Sarr for sure. I'm not saying Eze won't get better, and a lot of what I've heard is that, well, that goal could do him good and he could now build on that and get back to the form that Palace fans saw before. And of course it depends on whether you take into account what you see or what those Palace fans are seeing. There are some people who play FPL and don't even watch the matches, don't take that into account at all. I will never play FPL like that. I will always want some input from what I see from watching games. Now, that might be the wrong way to play the game now. The right way to play the game now might be just look at data, just look at the models. Don't introduce the noise of what you see in your own bias. I totally get that. I don't want to play like that. Forgive me for that, but I want to play and I want some connection to what I see weekends when I watch games, opinions of people who watch those players as well. And so I have to build in some input from what I'm hearing on Eze, and that is that he's not there yet. He's not anywhere near his best. He's the one getting subbed off early, not Sarr. But if you look at the models, Sarr's X-Mins is lower than Eze's, which I think is incorrect. So if you bump X-Mins up for Sarr, it's a lot closer in the models between the two of them, which is what I've done. So I just think Sarr is the way to go over Eze. I get it. Eze is on so many set plays. He's strong in the BPS. He could be on penalties. He's got that legacy of previous seasons performing at the top level. But I just think that Sarr is the force there, and he's the one that I would prefer. He also is cheaper, and you can do more with the money. So that's why I'd go there. My order of replacements then for Bowen would be Anthony Gordon, then Ismaila Sarr. Let's talk about Diaz, though. Why am I hot on Diaz? Well, there's a few things. First of all, we think Liverpool are going to beat United by a big margin. If we look at Rob's graphic here, he's look at him with the Diaz propaganda. He's worse than me. He's picked him out. Diaz is in the projected goals 0.52. This isn't the right graphic. I've taken the wrong graphic from Rob, and I haven't got time to get the right one now. But Liverpool are obviously predicted to be amongst the highest projected goals by the spread betting markets. Look at Rob T at FBL, and you'll see the graphic that I'm referring to. They're amongst the top 3 teams for projected goals. We think that Liverpool are going to get around 2 to 3 goals, or the spread betting markets do. Liverpool and United fans think it could be even more than that. I saw a Liverpool stream, and again, I watch a lot of fan streams. I watched a Liverpool stream last night with a Liverpool and United fan, where the Liverpool fan predicted 3-0 and the United fan predicted 4-0. I've predicted 4-0, as has gone 3-0. We're all thinking that Liverpool are going to beat United by a big margin. They've just scored 5 goals at West Ham, 6 before that. I think, they're just free scoring at the moment. So one of the reasons why I'm hot on Diaz is we think Liverpool are going to win the game by a big margin. A bigger margin, I think, than Brentford are likely to win at Southampton. So for a start, I think there's going to be more goals in the game that Diaz is in than the game that Mbeumo is in. Right? That's the first thing. The other thing is I looked at this data. This is minutes per point. Now, Diaz has obviously been in and out of Liverpool's team through injury, a little bit of rotation and rest. But if you look at minutes per point over the season, no surprise to see Salah at top, 7.8 mins per point. Diaz is second, above Palmer, 11.4 minutes per point. That completely shocked me. I didn't expect him to be above Palmer, because obviously Palmer is in that top tier next to Salah. Certainly if he's a level below Salah, he's only that one level. I didn't have Diaz at that level this season. I know he started the season well, and I know he's come back into form with 2 goals and another goal recently, so 3 goals in the last 2. He's playing centre forward. He's playing that Firmino role. And since he's been in that role, he's played 90 minutes, he's played 86 minutes, he's played 90 minutes. So he hasn't been subbed in that role. So X-mins when he starts have been higher. But even over the season, his X-mins per start is 77.7. That's higher than I thought it was. If you look at, we're going to talk a bit about other players tonight, including Chris Wood. Chris Wood is only 80.7, and yet he's seen as a safe pick. So the X-mins per start is not a reason not to get Diaz. Because once he's on the pitch, he's averaging 77 minutes. Against United, if he plays 77 minutes, he can do some damage. There's no question. So what we're seeing here is that when he starts, he gets good minutes, and his minutes per point is second only to Salah. And we think that Liverpool are going to beat United by a big margin. Well, certainly that's the major opinion. So does he start? That's the next thing. I'm going to watch more videos tonight, I look around for Liverpool predicted lineups. Redmen TV is a great channel for this because they do a predicted lineup. I watched their video last night and they had Diaz and Gakpo starting. This is what Emma does at Jump the Wave on Twitter and I believe on Blue Cloud as well. Excellent stuff that she does. She basically has a team of people for each Premier League side and they predict lineups. And then she puts this out pre-deadline to show you what the expert picks that she has recruited think the lineup will be for each team. She covers about 8 or 9 teams. She's showing here that in their collection of people who predict Liverpool's team, 97% certainty that Diaz starts this. I agree with that. And it's the same with Gakpo here as well. I think Gakpo's even higher, 100% on Gakpo. The reason why I think that Diaz and Gakpo start is they've scored a lot of goals. They're gelling as a front three. But the other key factor is Liverpool have got the Carabao Cup and then the FA Cup. So they've got 2 games before they next play in the Premier League. And yes, Jota and yes, Nunez are pushing for starts and he'll want to give them minutes. But he's got the immediate opportunity to give Jota and Nunez starts straight after the United game. So why would he change it up when they've played so well and scored so many goals when he's got that opportunity to appease Jota, give Jota a start and get him minutes and get Nunez in the team as well? He's got the Newcastle Carabao Cup semi-final and he's got the Accrington Stanley FA Cup. I think that's where Jota and Nunez get their starts. And I think Gakpo and Diaz will start against United as a result of that. And the beauty of going Diaz is, or Gakpo, because Gakpo's a great option to replace Cunha, is that we get those 2 cup ties before they go to Forest in game week 21. And that could allow us to try and read slots rotation into game week 21. Because obviously if Diaz and Gakpo don't start against Accrington Stanley, there's a good chance they're going to start at Forest. So this is a good opportunity to go Diaz or Gakpo. This is a good opportunity to tilt because I think there's a chance that we are able then to read what the game week 21 lineup is and you might get Diaz and Gakpo for a second game week then. Okay, it's at Forest, not a great fixture. But if there's a chance that we can start to see Gakpo and Diaz settle down in that Liverpool side, they could be outstanding over a run of Brentford, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Wolves. So I think, I'm all about opportunity. The reason why I went Bowen instead of going Odegaard or Bruno when we got the injury to Saka was to put myself in this position. I was talking then about, let's look short term. Let's not look at Odegaard and Bruno because you get those 2, you're kind of signing up to keeping them long term. Nothing wrong with that, but let's face it hasn't gone particularly well for people who did do that. They're great assets, but I preferred going Bowen at Southampton and then taking a look at Sarr. And I mentioned taking a look at the Liverpool situation. So now, although I've got the Bowen injury, I look at that as an opportunity to go, right, maybe I can go to Diaz. And I just think they're going to score goals against United. Diaz looks like starting according to the people who predict Liverpool's lineup every week. We've got the opportunity to see slots rotation during the cup games. So there's a chance we can read it and take Diaz or Gakpo into 21. If we can spot and play that rotation well, the opportunity that those Liverpool assets give us over a run of Brentford, Ipswich, Bournemouth, Wolves is outstanding. This to me is just an ideal opportunity that if you're trying to make up ground, trying to gain rank, that's the way you go. You could go in Bumo, you could play safe. So instead of going Diaz, go in Bumo. And instead of going Gakpo, you could go Chris Wood and play safe. totally fine. But if you're 1 million in the world, 2 million in the world, if you're in a mini league where all the managers around you have gone Chris Wood or have gone Mbumo, the opportunity is here. It's just down to you whether you've got the courage to go with it. There's risk. There's absolute risk here. But I just think there's significant reward because what we saw earlier there with the Diaz points per minute or mins per point, he is absolutely outstanding. He is top tier in terms of mins per point this season. And he's playing centre forward for a Liverpool team who are scoring goals for fun against a United team. I just think that's an opportunity that if you're lagging behind and saying, oh, the template's forming again, you've got no excuse but to go for that. I'm going for it because that's the way I want to play FPL. Now, the weather could feed into it. And tomorrow morning I might wake up and think it's too much risk. And if it is, I will probably go Sarr. And also what I will say is if I go Diaz this week and I think going into 21 Forest away, it's still a risk and he might not start, I'll just move to Sarr then. Yes, it's a transfer. But once I get Sarr in, I think he's for the long term. And this is what I was planning to do when I got Bowen. Get Bowen for a week, assess it. I could keep Bowen long term and rotate with Rodgers. As it is, he's got the injury. So now I move to plan B, which is to look to Sarr or Liverpool asset. And that's what I'm going to do. And I think obviously that's going to work out better than people who went Odegaard or Bruno. I know Bruno's got great fixtures, but I've seen nothing from United to suggest that they're going to go up a level and suddenly they're going to be free scoring. Yes, the fixtures are great, but I'd still rather have Diaz, even if it meant only getting 3 games in 4 than have Bruno, in my opinion, because I just think the way Liverpool playing, he could be worth that risk. Okay, let's talk about Kuna, because he's the other player that, and by the way, if you look at last 6 data, it's even more in favour of Diaz. If you look at shots per 90, shots in the box per 90, big chance per 90, you can see where Diaz is. And if you look at midfielders last 6, Diaz is 8th in this table, 0.78, which obviously compared to Mbumo, he is exactly double the XGI non-penalty per 90 of Mbumo. So, yeah, I know Mbumo's got penalties and I know he's the talisman. And Diaz, his goal involvement is about 30% because there's others in that Liverpool team who could score the goals. But if Liverpool were getting a lot of goals, I think Diaz is worth that risk. Gordon, as I said, 14th in this table, 0.64. Excellent option. And I would go him over Mbumo. And then my next option would be Sarr, who is further down this table, but 24th, 0.58. But the thing about Sarr is he's like Mbumo. You can get him in and you can keep him there because I think the fixtures are great. And I prefer, as I said, Sarr to Eze. Let's talk about Kuna. Let's talk about forwards last 6. Now, the other thing that I did recently was I took a risk on Jesus for the same reasons that I'm talking about the risk on Diaz. And so far, it's paid off. I got the 12 points at Brentford. It could go very wrong. But what I needed from Jesus was for him to score at Brentford and play well in order for him to start us at Brighton. He did do that, and I think he will start at Brighton. And Emma has got another table for Arsenal, which shows I think he's 93% is what they think likely to start. I think only one of their experts said that Jesus wouldn't start. Havertz is back, but I don't think Havertz... Well, either Havertz won't start or I think he'll start in the 8 and they'll drop Marino. We don't know yet. The trouble is we don't know what Arteta's new lineup without Saka is because Ipswich was a low block. Very difficult to tell from that game. And then they went to Brentford with illness, didn't have Havertz and rested Rice because of the injury. So we still haven't seen Arteta with all his options available to know what he's going to do. What I do know is, well, what I think is he's not going to drop Jesus while he's scoring goals. I think while he's scoring, I'm fine and that risk will be okay. Long term, not so much. I admit it is a risk, but he's an effective differential. And if you look at the last 6 data here, he's by far the best options. If you look at touches in the box, shot in the box per 90, big chance per 90, he's top of those metrics. So what I've got myself here is obviously an Arsenal centre-forward and I want to move to the Liverpool centre-forward. Both have risk, but I think the reward is good on them. Where would I go if I didn't have Jesus and I had Kuna? I think I'd probably, Gakpo is a risk. He has played more minutes than Diaz, but I do like going to Gakpo for the one-off, certainly for the United game, weather permitting, if it's on. The other option that I prefer is Mateta. because it's similar to Sarr. I just think Crystal Palace's fixtures are stronger than Forest and Chris Wood. And we saw last season Mateta had a very, very good spell where he was almost prolific. And from what I gather, listening to the Palace fans that I've taken in over the last few weeks, he is beginning to show signs. He is working well with Sarr, and I think they score goals. They start scoring goals more freely. So again, if you're in the top 100k or even the top 500,000, playing safe with Wood is perfectly logical. He is going to get goals over this run for Forest, but they're bottom of the ticker over the next 12. So long term, they're not a great option. I think Forest, the way we're playing, we will continue to score goals. It's a great fixture at Wolves. I think we win that. But I don't think we win any of these games by big margins and score many goals. And that's the thing with Forest. If you look at the attacking data, let's bring up team attack last 6. We're 12th, 1.19. It's okay. But bearing in mind, we're playing well and we've won 5 of those games. So we've won 5 of our last 6. And yet we are below mid-table in here for XG non-penalty per 90. We are not a free scoring team. Chris Wood will not get many braces. He will get single goals, and that's fine because you very likely get free bonus. Although we do have Olaena and other defenders who can take that bonus off him. So I'm not knocking Chris Wood, if you pardon the pun. There's no doubt he is a great option. But again, if you're surrounded by people in your middle league who have gone Kuna to Wood, or you want to try and make significant rank gain, then go in Gakpo, or go in Jesus, or go in Mateta. I think, again, there's opportunity in all 3. Jesus is a risk, there's no question. Gakpo, I think, less so. I think he'll rest over the 2 cup games, and I think he'll play at Forest. And then you can see if you can work the rotation. Obviously, Champions League will come back in, and that'll be a factor. So there's no question it's a risk here. But at Liverpool, the way they're playing, the number of goals they're scoring, Gakpo's ceiling is higher than Chris Wood's, no question for me. So it's opportunity, and again, it's whether or not you've got that appetite for the risk. But in previous seasons, we haven't had many of these opportunities. It's always been go with a template, and it's made no sense to go against it. But I think, obviously with Jesus and what I'm talking about with Diaz and Gakpo as well, I think we have got opportunities, and I think it's there for you if you want to take that risk. Mateta is safer. Mateta will play week in, week out, unless they get someone in January, which I don't think they will, because I've got Eddie Nketiah, but Nketiah's not going to lead the line. If Nketiah comes in, it'll be in front 2 with Mateta. So I think my preferred safe option would be Mateta, because I think he will be on penalties, and I think he is likely to be as prolific as Chris Wood, if not more so, over the run that Palace have got, because I don't think Palace are a free scoring team either, but they've got better fixtures than Forest, and like Wood, Mateta's on penalties. But the effective ownership would be lower, and the rank gain you could get by going Mateta over Wood will be higher. There's 0.5 difference, I get it. There's money in a factor there, but I do like it as an option. So yeah, if you got Kuna looking for a placement, if you want to play safe, by all means go Chris Wood, but I think Mateta's a great alternative. If you want to risk it, if you want to tilt, Gakpo would be probably the way I would go in the short term, the United fixture, weather permitting, or if you really want to take a risk, you can come with me on Jesus, but obviously you've missed some points there already. Right, that's a lot of bias and propaganda, and I admit that. I'm freely going to admit that. But I do think we sit here a lot and we play FPL a lot, and I certainly bemoan when the template is strong and when it's difficult to really make up ground. And I do think at the moment, or the way the FPL has gone, is that with the increasive use in Rate My Team and Review and other algorithms, that has created a kind of almost like a safe approach to playing FPL. Content creators have added to that as well. And often you'll see content creators and folk who follow models and use models take that approach. They're going to look at players like Mbumo, they're going to look at Bruno, they're going to look at Odegaard, they're going to look at João Pedro. These are all players on penalties, and they're great assets. I'm not knocking that. But what the models and what the content creators won't do necessarily is look at the riskier options, because they don't, if they promote a risky option and it blows up in their face, it's difficult, and I get it, right? The models aren't going to recommend Diaz or Gakpo over the likes of Chris Wood or João Pedro, because they don't have penalties, for one. The X-Mins is an issue for two as well. So you've got to have some input. You've got to have some steer on what the X-Mins you think will be, and challenge the X-Mins that the models have got in there. For example, I think Diaz's X-Mins is 63 in review. And yet we know from looking at the table that his average per start is 77. His average per appearance is 63, so review is right there. But if we know he starts, he's going to get more minutes than 63. So suddenly if you change Diaz's X-Mins to 77 or even closer to 80, and bear in mind, in the last three he's got 90, 86 and 90, suddenly Diaz goes up the levels in those models. But you have to have the confidence to tweak X-Mins and do that to get that output. It's much simpler just to take the output that it gives you off the bat, out of the box, so to speak, and go with the safer options. And there's nothing wrong with that, as I say. But if you want to play the game like I do, if you want to play the game and make up ground and gain rank, all I'm saying is right now there are some great opportunities out there to do that with the likes of Gordon and Sarr and Jesus and Diaz and Gakpo. These are players that you're not going to see the models recommend highly. You'll see content creators tip them, but also at the same time, you'll see content creators tip those players and still go Mbumo or still go Chris Wood. So, and I understand that, because they need to preserve rank and so on. I'm playing in a more aggressive way at the moment, and it's done well for me. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to take risks. I'm probably going to go Diaz if there's no reports in the morning of the likelihood increasing that game is off. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just basically here to say there are options there if that's the way you want to play as well. Right, let's look at our predictions for the week, because Az did send me these. Well, actually, let's talk about captaincy, because that could be a factor. Not with Salah, because obviously Salah, it's a done deal. We're going to go Salah. I'm not pushing taking a risk with the captaincy. But vice captaincy is very important. So you've got to make sure you got your vice captaincy set, because obviously the Liverpool game could be off. Now, do you go Palmer or do you go Isak? Isak, Spurs away, is a tougher fixture on paper, but I don't think that is necessarily the case. I think Newcastle are more likely to score goals at Spurs than Chelsea are at Palace. I think Chelsea can win that game at Palace, but I don't think it's going to be a rout. Newcastle's ceiling at Spurs could be 3, 4 or more goals, I think. That's the general opinion of fans of both clubs as well, as I said. I am very, very tempted to put the vice captaincy on Isak. That currently is the way I'm going. I just think at the moment that Chelsea have had a little bit of a reset or a setback. Palace, I think, are on the up. I think they've only lost 2 in 11. So they're a team that are beginning to build. I think Palace is always a tough place to go. I don't think anyone goes there and turns them over easily. I know Arsenal did, but it's not traditionally a ground where teams go and rout them. And I don't think Chelsea are showing the recent form to suggest they're going to go there and win by 3 or 4 goals. Newcastle, on the other hand, are flying, and I think there's every reason to suggest that they could go there and win by 3 or 4 goals at Spurs. So at the moment, my vice is on Isak. So that would be my recommendation, to go Isak over Palmer. I wouldn't do anything with the captaincy. I'd leave it on Salah, but make sure you got your vice set. And right now, I'm going Isak, and this is why. Predictions. Now, Az and I don't look at each other's predictions before we do these, so I put mine in this afternoon, and I press a little button, and his appear. And when he's appeared, a lot of these are the same as mine, but it is total coincidence. Maybe it's a week where it's easy to predict. I've gone 3-1 at Spurs for Newcastle, and so's Az. I think, 3 goals is probably the minimum Newcastle score here. The defensive injuries for Spurs, the doggy's out now. We know they've got centre-backs out as well. Have hit them really hard, and we know Ange won't play anything other than front foot. Newcastle should have scored more at Old Trafford, and I think they will do that at Spurs. I think they will go a bit further and score 3 at Spurs. Villa Leicester, I've gone 2-1. So as Az. Not too much to say there. I think Leicester have got something about them in attacking terms. Villa aren't obviously uber confident at the moment. They're kind of stuttering a little bit. Rodgers is missing, and that's a big factor. And I haven't seen Villa without Rodgers for a long time. Bailey has not been performing, so Watkins will start, of course, and will be the main focal point in this Villa attack. I think they win, but I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Villa. Bournemouth-Everton, we've both gone 2-0. I watched the Everton play Forest last week. They don't really offer anything really in attack. They're really struggling to put together and create chances. Dyche is under pressure. Bournemouth are a good side. They create a lot of chances. I just see them winning this. So I've gone 2-0. And then Palace-Chelsea, yeah, I've gone 1-1. This is what I was talking about with the Palmer vice-captaincy. I do think that Newcastle will score more goals than Chelsea. And I don't think Palmer is anywhere near a captaincy option as a result. 1-1 is what I've gone with, and Az has agreed. City-West Ham, I've gone 2-0. Az has gone a West Ham goal, 2-1. And then Southampton-Brentford, Az has gone 2-0. I've gone 1-0. I just think Frank will go and prioritise the result. Southampton are a lot more pragmatic and defensive than they were. They're not a great team. They obviously lost to Palace. I think they're going to lose to Brentford, but I just don't think they're losing games 3-4-0 anymore. I just think, and Brentford for me, I'm not going to go there and play front foot, handbrake off. They're just going to get the goal and manage it out, and I think that's the way it'll go. Az has gone 2-0. Brighton Arsenal, I've gone 2-0. Brighton are not in a good place at the moment, struggling for consistency. There'll be a bit of rotation, I would have thought. I think Arsenal shut this out. The defensive data of Arsenal, if you look at it recently, this is last 6 matches. Shots per 90 conceded 5.3. I don't think I've seen anything low as that before. 0.42 XG conceded non-penalty per 90. Yes, they allowed a goal at Brentford, but their data at the moment is absolutely crazy defensively, which is making me think that I need to hold the 2 Arsenal defenders. And then certainly makes me think that they won't concede to Brighton. So I've gone 2-0. Az has gone 2-1. Brighton fan, of course. Garden Centre game is Fulham versus Ipswich. Prime time for Garden Centre. It's 2:00. No Santa anymore, but, you know, you can still get your New Year garden vouchers spent. 2-1 Ipswich. 2-1 Fulham for me. 2-1 Fulham for Az as well. Good fixture for Fulham, but I think Ipswich have got a bit about them. Delap is a player I've got my eye on. More on that perhaps in a minute. Liverpool United, Az has gone 3-0, I've gone 4-0. As I said, that is a general opinion that it'll be a big margin of victory, hence why I've been talking up Gakpo and Diaz, and why I think there's opportunity here. And then Wolves Forest, Az has gone 2-0 Forest, I've gone 1-0. I do think we win the game. No Kuna for Wolves, of course. We're so strong defensively, and I think Alanga and Hudson-Odoi looks like he's fit, will give them problems. I think their back 3 is Dawson, Bueno and Doherty. There's not much pace there. And I think if we can get Alanga and Hudson-Odoi against Doherty and Dawson, that's trouble. So I think we win that game because Murillo's fit as well. So we look strong for that. But I've gone 1-0. Again, Chris Wood, a great option. He could well get that goal. He could, but I don't think we're winning games 3-4-0. So, yeah, I stand by that Wood is a great option, but I think Mateta's up there with him as well and a better option for me over the long term. Right. Has done a terrible job as usual at following the chat, so apologies for that. We just have one super chat, and it's from some small account. I've heard of him. He's out there. I think it's a decent channel. Just a small. I like to help the small accounts out. No, thanks, Andy. 5 years from Andy. Is it me or does the quality of BlackBox go up over the last 3 streams? An interesting theory, Andy. Nice of you to say so. Don't know what we've changed up recently. Maybe we're on to something. I'll talk to Az about it, see what he thinks. No, thanks, of course. All seriousness, Az will be back very soon, hopefully. I hope he gets over his cold soon for next week for Game Week 21. We obviously have the FA Cup coming up, so we've got a break, haven't we, now? So, yeah, he'll be fine now for Game Week 21 because we've got FA Cup. We will probably do something, though, next week because it's been such a long time since I've chatted to him about FBL. So I do want to get him back on. Mark, don't forget Sleeper. I haven't got that screen ready, so I can't promote that. Let me just see if I can bring that up. It'll probably break things, and if it does, oh no, it's all right. Yes. Fancy Pick'em. Make sure you take part in our Fancy Pick'em Predictions League. I think the December prize winner is going to be announced soon because we picked that today. I saw Az was doing that in chat. So that's another £500 worth of prizes going to a monthly winner. If you want to get part of that, get involved for January. QR code on the screen. Join our Pick'em League and take part. It's a lot of fun, and of course, all you've got to do is predict scores. Very simple. There's no gambling involved. Nothing at stake. No money it costs. It's free to enter. And every month we give away £500 worth of prizes. I don't know what the winner will ask for this week, but it'll be something up to the value of £500, which is very, very nice as well, of course. Nice late Christmas present for someone there. Right. Is there any questions? I don't want any super chats. Let's have a look if there's anything that I've missed. I don't see any questions there. If you've got a question and you want to ask me something now, Alanga or Semenyo, Moby says. Alanga's on form, no question. I think he's got 4 returns in 4 now. Semenyo's fixtures aren't great in the short term. Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest, Liverpool. Whereas Alanga's got Liverpool, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton. I like Alanga, I really do, because I do think he starts now week in, week out. I think he's edged ahead of Hudson-Odoi when we play the one winger, and I think most of the time we will play them both now that Hudson-Odoi is back. So I am tempted to go Alanga here, because I think the price is similar. Semenyo will have more shots. If you look at midfielders last 6, I think Alanga's in that table. Where is he? I don't think I highlight. He's 30th, 0.43. Semenyo 0.39. So Alanga's XGI non-penalty per 90 over the last 6 game weeks is higher. Semenyo is a shot beast, isn't he? 3.89 shots per 90, shots in the box per 90, 2.83. Still in the top 10 for those. But he's only returned 1 goal, 1 assist last 6, whereas Alanga's come in with 3 goals, 1 assist. If you've got ground to make up, Mo, I would go Alanga. I think he keeps his place in the team, and I don't see with those fixtures Semenyo's output picking up too much in the short term. So, yeah, go Alanga. Fancy that. Osamar says, would you sell João Pedro for Royale for -4? It's interesting, isn't it, João Pedro? I'm not a big fan of João Pedro. He was fortunate with those 2 assists, I thought, the other night. The first one came off his back. The second one was a classy assist and fair play. Both Raul and João Pedro in this table, and there's no standout stats here amongst them. I think, for me, Fulham's form is stronger than Brighton's. João Pedro's assured of his starts because the injury to Ferguson means there's not, and Welbeck means there's not rotation. Brighton have Arsenal this week, then Ipswich away, United away, Everton at home. Whereas Fulham have got Ipswich this week, West Ham, Leicester, Man United. I prefer Fulham's fixtures. I prefer Fulham's form. I guess the issue is Jimenez does have Muniz breathing down his neck as rotation. So I think, and also Pereira's on penalties when he's on the pitch, whereas Pedro gets penalties. I think I'd have to say don't do it, not for a -4. I like it in the short term, and I think that Rail could come out with points against Ipswich. But is it worth a -4? You're piling pressure on Jimenez to score there. I wouldn't do it. Even though I think Brighton won't score against Arsenal, I still wouldn't do it. Not for -4. Muniz, Konsa, or Enzo? Who to play, Andre? So Enzo goes to Palace. Konsa is at home to Leicester. Muniz is at home to Chelsea. Konsa's got the better clean sheet likelihood. Muniz has got the better attacking output likelihood of those two. If you're playing safe, you go Konsa. If you want to go for a higher ceiling, and there's no question, a double figure return is coming for Muniz. It's definitely coming. His data is absolutely ridiculous. If you look at the last 6, he's 5th here, 0.28, XGI non-penalty per 90. Shots per 90, 1.40. I saw a table on Twitter last night that said that his last 15 chances are all higher quality in terms of XG than the likes of Chris Wood and other players. So he's not only having shots, he's having high quality chances. He missed an absolute sitter, didn't he, against Southampton? So no question for me that Muniz is the tilt, and he will get that double figure return. It's coming. It could be against Chelsea. Konsa to play safe, Munoz to tilt. So if you want to make up ground and you're looking to gain rank, I don't know what your rank is, you go Munoz. Otherwise, play safe on Konsa. But I do think Leicester can score. Definitely do think that. Right, what do you think of Wissa for next game week? Osama again. Yeah, I like Wissa for the short term. Southampton away, of course. But then it's City, Liverpool. But they are at home in those games. And Brentford are a very strong home side. And I do think against City, they can score at least 1 or 2 goals because City are allowing chances still. But I do think we're seeing, like I said, Thomas Frank make his team a little bit more cautious, a little bit more results driven. And we looked at the Brentford's data earlier in terms of attacking shots per 90 are less than 10 over the last 6. I don't like Wissa over other options. I much prefer Mateta or Chris Wood. So I wouldn't be moving to Wissa unless you know you're moving just for this one fixture and then moving off him. That would be my take on him. Keep faith in Jackson. Arse out. I think so. I mean, he's had the rotation now, and the fixtures turn for Chelsea. Bournemouth, Wolves, West Ham at home in the next 3, and even City away in 23 is a good fixture. If I had the funds, I would be looking at Jackson. I don't have the funds to get to him. I could sell Timber and move to Jackson, and that is something I am considering because of Arsenal's fixtures are tough. Spurs, Villa, Wolves away, City at home. Not necessarily teams that they will keep clean sheets against, but the data does make me think I should keep faith with Timber, so I'm probably going to do that. If I was selling Timber and freeing up cash, though, Jackson would be on the menu for me. I do think that Chelsea will turn the corner again, and Jackson will start delivering again. Couple of super chats, some Acer Fiend first of all. Thank you very much, Acer Fiend. Thoughts in Gakpo in for Jackson? Triple Liverpool attack. Well, I've just said Jackson, I think, will come good again. But I also have talked up Diaz and Gakpo tonight as well. And Gakpo's 8th on the table last 6 game weeks for forwards, 0.56. He's still behind Jackson though, 0.62. But Gakpo's a hell of a differential and will enable you to make up ground. For this week, I think Gakpo's going to outscore Jackson. I think Liverpool will get 2, 3, 4 goals against United, or more likely to, than Chelsea will score at Palace. So I like Gakpo this week. I think he's a great differential, and if you're trying to make up ground, Ace of Fiend, I think it's a good option. You've got the cup games then to see whether Gakpo's going to start at the City ground in game week 21. I think he will. Whether Liverpool score many goals at the City ground, I don't know. It's a tough game. But I think you probably will get Gakpo for this week, and then you'll get a start out of him in 21 as well. And then after that, it gets tougher because Champions League kicks in as well. So really, it depends if you've got transfers in the bank or if you're happy making transfers around game week 21, 22, then Gakpo's a good option. Of course, what I've got to mention is the assistant managership, the double game week coming up in possibly 24, 25. Bear that in mind when you're making your moves now, in that I think it's a good idea to try and preserve a couple of transfers going into 24 so you can play the double game week. But of course, if you can carry Gakpo through to 24 and the other double game week, you've got yourself a double game week player. So that's worth keeping in mind as well. If you're looking at Diaz or Gakpo, the possibility of being able to hold them through to that double game week, it's going to be tough because rotation will be a factor, but it could be possible. Pat K, thank you very much for your super chat. Semenyo to Gordon for -4, or just wait till after deadline. I much prefer Gordon to Semenyo over long term. No question about that. I think Gordon comes out of the Spurs game with a return, and I think Gordon, although he hasn't really hit heights, he's got a goal, he's got 3 assists in the last 4. Let's bring up the midfielders data. Have a look where he fares. He's 14th last 6, 0.64. Over the last 6, 2 goals, 3 assists. Semenyo, we talked about, just 1 goal, 1 assist. Bournemouth's fixtures are tougher. Newcastle's form is stronger. I'd do it. I think Gordon's going to return at Spurs, and I like him as an option. If it's 4 -4, I guess the issue is Bournemouth are at home to Everton, and perhaps that's not a game where you want to lose your Bournemouth assets. I mean, I'm holding Evan Nilsson, I'm starting him. So it's very tempting. If it wasn't for -4, I'd do it. But for -4, I wouldn't, because Bournemouth got the home fixture. Tag, thank you very much for your super chat. Haaland, 7 goals in next 3. Discuss the impact. Yeah, I mean, he could obviously go mad, couldn't he? No question about it. West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich, brilliant fixtures. If you're looking at those 3 and going, you're not fearing having Haaland. I don't fear him because I do think that there are other players amongst forwards who can cover his likely output. And I do think that he's not a captaincy option. Even if I owned him, I'd be captaining Salah because of Salah's recent output and Haaland's recent output. I don't see City just flicking a switch and suddenly Haaland getting hat-tricks. I haven't seen anything from City, even in that win at Leicester, that made me think they are back to their best and they can generate chances to the level that Haaland needs to get hat-tricks. Not yet. So, yes, if he goes mad over the next 3, it'll have an impact, but it'll be a good thing. It'll shake FPL up again, but he'll have to go absolute gangbusters to convince me and many other FPL managers that suddenly we've got to sell Palmer and get Haaland back in. He will have to do some incredible things because Chelsea got good fixtures, 3 of the next 4 at home from 21 onwards, and Palmer's Palmer, he will deliver again as well. So I think he'll get, even if he gets 7 in the next 3, 2 hat-tricks, that's what it will take to have us reconsider, I think. And even then it's like, well, we're chasing points, aren't we? And I made this mistake earlier in the season. I ripped up my team with a wild card to get Haaland in because of FOMO, and it all went wrong for me. And if I hadn't have done that, I'd probably be sitting 100k easy now. I'm just outside it and managed to claw it back. But I've had to do a lot of work because of the damage I made through that error, through that mistake. And I don't think we're going to go there again unless we see City's form really pick up. So it's not just Haaland's output. It's going to have to be City as a well-oiled attacking machine with De Bruyne fully fit, with Foden firing. It's a big ask. I think they win those games. I think they win all 3 of those games, although Brentford and Ipswich won't be easy because both the fear factor has gone now, and when City take on an opponent, they're no longer taking on an opponent who fears them. So it's a big problem for Guardiola. So yeah, it will take 7 goals to make me think about Haaland again. I just don't see it happening. Sorry about that, Tag. Nigel the Crab's in. He's thrown me a super chat. Thank you very much, Simon. Hello from Belgrade, Serbia. Happy New Year. I know, I saw the photo. I mean, what's the weather like out there? Because it's getting cold here now. It's been snapped, really freezing. So no doubt it's going to be cold where you are in Belgrade. But Happy New Year to you, Simon. Thank you for your super chats and all your support over the seasons for BlackBox. And Pat is back again saying, you're the man. I have Pickford in goal as well. I tell you what, goalkeepers is something I want to talk about just briefly before I go. I need to get rid of Fleckham. I don't know what people are thinking about with their goalkeepers. I'm not going Alisson because if I go Diaz, I'm locked out there. Plus, I want to think about slot for game week 24. Pickford is my ideal option because he gets you that double game week goalkeeper. And if we're talking about a double game week, we know Everton will have it as well as Liverpool. What Everton player do you most want? I most want Pickford because goalkeepers in double game weeks normally do well. And Pickford, unlike Mikalenko, will get save points. So I want to go into that double game week scenario if it is 24-25 with Pickford. So that gives him the edge for me in terms of the Fleckham replacement. I do like Sells, but I'm currently favouring Pickford. Now, the complication is Fleckham went down in price last night, and if I go Diaz, I can't afford him. So what I'm thinking of doing to get the 0-2 that I need to go to Pickford soon is downgrading Evan Nilsson to Delap. And the reason why I'm thinking of doing that is because Ipswich from 21 have Brighton, City, and Southampton at home in 3 of the next 4. I like what I've seen from Delap. And yes, I mean, João Pedro is the safe budget option. But I really like what I've seen from him. I mean, Delap against Chelsea was absolutely incredible performance. Man of the match easy. Came out with a double figure return, goal and assist. And over the last 6 game weeks, he's 10th in his table, 0.45. And he is a downgrade from Evan Nilsson that will get me the money that will enable me to go Fleckham to Pickford. So that's what I've got planned for game week 21. That will probably be the last transfer I make leading up to 24. But I do need to get Fleckham out. So what I plan to do is Evan Nilsson to Delap next week because Evan Nilsson's at Chelsea. And then he's got Newcastle and Forest and Liverpool. That's a tough run for Evan Nilsson. So I'm going to move Evan Nilsson to Delap, use the money to then go Fleckham to Pickford. probably in 22, and then roll for the next 2. That's my plan. And yeah, I like Delap a lot. He's not being mentioned as a Kuna replacement, and fair enough, because he is a downgrade, I think. But I look at that run of 3, that run of 4th and 21, I think Brighton are in no great shape. Ipswich at home will go into that game thinking they can turn them over. Delap used to play for City. He'll want to perform in that game, and City are giving up chances. So I think Ipswich can score in both Brighton and City. Liverpool away, don't see much there. Southampton at home, entirely winnable. Ipswich will score, I think, in that game. I think Delap's goal involvement for Ipswich is 64%. So basically, if Ipswich score, 64% chance he's involved based on what we've seen so far. I think they score goals over that 4-game week period. I certainly think they score more goals than Bournemouth do in the run that they've got. So I think that's a decent move. And I think Delap is someone that you should keep on your radar. If you're trying to save money and you're trying to go against the crowd who have got João Pedro, Delap's on pens as well. And I think that run of 3 home games, I think McKenna will be looking at that going, we can get points out of those 3 home games. Certainly Southampton, certainly Brighton, and I think City won't relish going to Ipswich in that game, and Delap against his former club could perform. Tariq, one more super chat before I go. Happy New Year, everyone. Blank game week 29 on your mind yet? No, not really. Not thinking about that yet. I know people have mentioned it and are planning transfers accordingly. I saw Praz say that he wants Chris Wood in to take him through to blank game week 29. I haven't thought on those terms yet. I'm definitely thinking more short term, looking for opportunities in the short term, like Jesus, like Diaz, like Gakpo. But I am looking ahead to 24 and the potential double game week. Not looking further than that. Plenty of time for that, I think. And we will have to plan for that. But of course, we've got wildcards now. I haven't thought about when I will play that. I think the assistant manager chip is such a curveball because suddenly that's another thing to consider during this second half of the season. And we seem like we've got so many weeks now that will be affected by chips. I think it's 7 weeks now where out of the remaining weeks that chips will be active. That's a lot. And I haven't got my head around it yet. I think over the international break, I'll start looking that far ahead. But no, Tariq, I haven't started thinking about that yet. Okay, I think that's enough. I've probably done over the hour. I have 800 watching. Fantastic. The darts have started. I've probably missed some of it. I've got to catch up on Traitors. This is the last solo stream I will do now because Az will be back. So thank you very much for all those who tuned in over the Christmas period. Happy New Year again. I'll be glad to get Az back so I'm not talking non-stop. Thank you for supporting these streams though. It's been really fun doing these and I might do them again one day. But see you soon with Az over the break. Happy New Year again. And it's a good night from me. See you later.